Welcome, folks. Welcome to the CD2 Democratic Candidates Forum. We know you vote. And we know you are informed voters. And that's why you're here today. Now, I know you're going to want to know more about the candidates, and I promise you will. We also know that because you are informed voters, you will ask about the petitions before you sign them. And then if you agree, you will sign them. You will ask about the initiatives before you sign them. And if you agree, you will sign them. I can tell you one thing for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, you can be proud of all of these 6 people. Each one of these 6 candidates really does believe that our country is worth the work. And so, you're going to meet them in 1 minute. Okay, now about our moderator. Dylan Smith is the publisher and the editor of the TucsonSentinel.com. He can't help it. It's in his DNA. Ladies and gentlemen, Dylan Smith.
Thank you all so much for being here today. Fired up and ready to go right now. They've been, I think, ready for this. As Sherry said, I'm Dylan Smith. I'm the editor and publisher of TucsonSentinel.com, and I'm really honored that I was asked to moderate this, and it's amazing. I'm really pleased to see so many of you here today to take part in this. We face some serious issues and some very important decisions, but I've asked each of these candidates to approach this as a conversation rather than a formal debate-like proceeding. Interact naturally, while respecting each other's views and drawing some contrast, especially in those areas where they have different opinions on these issues. But because we have 6 people on stage today, we have to put some limits on the length of their answers. So we've got a timer here that will not exactly turn their mic off, but remind them to keep some of their answers fairly concise, so we can make sure that we got hundreds and hundreds of questions that were sent to us as to potentially ask. And I winnowed through a ton of those, narrowed it down to I think what are some really fundamental issues that are important for whoever is going to be the next representative for this district. Because our time is limited, let's respect these candidates and the other audience members and allow them the chance to respond as much as possible. So please keep your clapping, cheering, booing, possibly, and other applause to a minimum during the program, except for now, as I briefly go down the line and introduce them. Mary Montejo. The daughter of farm workers, Mary is the former CFO of the U.S. Forest Service, Assistant CFO of the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and was an Assistant Army Secretary under President Obama. Matt Hines, a previous CD2 candidate, is a medical doctor who is a hospitalist at Tucson Medical Center. He served 2 terms in the Arizona legislature and was an Obama appointee in the Department of Health and Human Services who helped implement the Affordable Care Act. Barbara Sherry, a McNeil resident, is a retired rancher who raised organic beef and pork, and also a mortgage broker with 20 years of experience in the financial industry. Bruce Wheeler grew up in South America and studied at the University of Arizona. He was a Tucson City Councilman, retired from the Tucson Airport Authority as the Director of Energy Management, and served for 6 years in the Arizona House of Representatives. And Robert Reeves from the U of A, worked as a teacher and then as a prosecutor for the Pima County Attorney's Office. She's a former state legislator, served 3 terms in Congress, and ran for the U.S. Senate in 2016. And Billy Kovacs. a fellow of the Lynn Brown Center for Civic Leadership, former ambassador to the Arizona Technology Council and One Young World, and was a co-founder of Tucson restaurant Prep and Pastry. So our first question goes to each of you, and sounds simple, but really gets to the heart of why we're here today. What makes you the best candidate in the Democratic primary? How are you different? Why should Democrats and independents support you? And how will you win in November? And Bruce Wheeler, you have 90 seconds.
Wow. I think I bring a breadth of experience that's really relevant at this time. You know, I've met with each one of my colleagues up here, candidates, and individually alone, and I pledge my support to whoever wins this primary. It's that important and that critical. You know, when I served on the city council for 8 years, we inherited under Mayor Volci and the city council a trichloroethylene pollution, a plume at the airport, covering the groundwater at the airport and the air base, and it was ignored by the city council until Jane Kay, a courageous investigative reporter, uncovered it, and we did something about it. When I served in the legislature after retiring and a spread of 15 years, together with Liz raising our 2 sons, we had the opportunity to expand Medicaid expansion. And as the Arizona House Democratic Whip, I played a crucial role in bringing those votes together, keeping our caucus in line and supportive and united against all efforts to divide us, if that sounds familiar to what's going on today. So I knew when to oppose Governor Brewer, almost on everything, particularly in public education issues. But when the opportunity arose to do this, I took it. And I think it's important to understand what forces, lobbyists, and pressures we will be up against in Congress, as I have been in the legislature and on the city council, to keep hold of our values, keep hold of our ideas, push them, and be able to talk to the other side to actually accomplish something.
Hello. As you know, I'm running as a progressive, and the reason why running as a progressive is so important to me is because I just truly believe that moving forward, progressing, making things better is what this country has to do. Unfortunately, that's not happening. We're going backwards. So I felt like I needed to step in and make sure that we continued moving forward and not go backwards. What makes me the best candidate? Running for Congress for the House of Representatives, it's a federal position. And I think it's very important that you understand what federal processes are like. They're very complex. I put 34 years of my life into working for the federal government. I understand federal processes. I've been the CFO of the Forest Service, assistant CFO of HUD, and a CFO of the Army. This gave me an understanding of federal processes at the very highest levels in terms of how to fix what's being broken right now. We need to fix it, and I have the experience and the knowledge to do it. What makes me different? My experience. The fact that I have put so much time at very high levels to make government accountable. As a CFO, you know it's about accountability. I would also be an authentic voice and a voice of color. Diversity in Congress. We need more diverse voices in Congress. Believing in me, I have your values, I share your values, and you will support me. Thank you.
Right after the November 2016 election, my second grandson was born a month early. I had to spend a couple of weeks in the newborn ICU. That thrust me into the position of taking care of his 18-month-old brother. And I will tell you, running a competitive Senate race pales compared to running after a toddler. As soon as we got them settled down in Tucson, my third grandson was born 2 months early and had to be in the newborn ICU for almost a month. And then the medical bills came, and my children said, "We never expected this to happen." And I said, "That's the point. That is why I voted for the Affordable Care Act. That is why I voted against every repeal. And when Martha McSally voted for that deadly Republican health care bill that would have kicked over 20 million people off their health care, I said I cannot stand on the sidelines and let this happen. I have a record of fighting for you, and I will continue to do that. How do I win? By doing forums like this, and I thank my colleagues. Having a primary is a good thing, because we're able to get before you, and you can hear us speak and learn about us, and I know it energizes you to vote in November. Thank you.
Okay, this is a great setup. We have a clock right here telling us how long we have. This is fantastic, so I think he needs another round of applause some other time. Because I don't want to use more of my time. But thank you
See
all.
if I can pause it.
Thank you for that. But again, thank you all for being here. This is really an important election, and I know that you hear that every single time there's a forum or there's an election, but I think all of us recognize that this is probably the most important election of our lives, certainly of mine. Now, why vote for me and the other 16 parts of that question? It's a lot to get around in 1 minute and a half, but really it comes down to trust and experience. And I have a background as a physician. I work at Tucson Medical Center and have spent the last 15 years after training at the University of Arizona taking care of Southern Arizona families. And that's not just folks in the middle of Tucson. That includes folks all throughout Cochise County, lots of different hospitals, Benson and Wilcox, of course Douglas, and all these areas send, and right here in Green Valley, the hospital here, send patients to TMC. So I have a connection, and I have a trusted relationship with so many people that I've been able to help at some of the worst times of their lives. And it teaches me, as a candidate and as a potential advocate for all of you, exactly what's going on in everyone's worlds, what's happening in their lives, and what they need to move forward and to live the lives that they want to live. So I think that's why I'm one of the best people up here. Thank you.
Thank you for coming today. What makes me the best candidate? I honestly don't know. I have to tell you that. I will tell you this. I was a governed Democrat. A lot of you here know what that means. Well, I just told you how old I am. The fact is, I think because I'm not a politician, I bring to this race an entrepreneurial spirit. I was a former rancher. I am openly gay. That is very important that you all know that. We have too little representation of the gay community in Congress or in the United States Senate. We make a large population in the United States. We need more representation. On the night of Charlottesville, as our president could not comfort a nation, I said, this is time for me. I have to stand for something. I have to get up. I have to do this. Because if we don't stand up, we're going to be run over, folks. There's so much money headed this way. You have no idea the amount of money that's going to come here. And I will say this to you. Any of these people, including myself, are better than any Republican who will take this seat.
How am I supposed to follow that? Thanks, Dylan. Appreciate it.
You guys drew straws.
I guess I got the short one. To answer the question, am I the best up here on the stage? I don't think so. That's not for me to decide. That's for you to decide. You decide who's going to be the representative. That's what this government is about, is the people standing up and saying who they want representing them and what belief structure that they have they can attach themselves to. Why I think I have a good background? I spend my time supporting other groups more than I do my own campaign. Those are Monster Man Action, Lupe, Lucha, A4A, all the groups that are actually doing the actions that we are trying to support in legislation. That's how I think that we're going to win in November. We have to support the people that have been fighting for these things for generations before. I mean, I'm the youngest guy on the stage, before I was born. I don't know what a McGovern candidate is because I probably wasn't born then. I'm 30, by the way. But what we need to focus on is not just our Democratic primary, but Democratic turnout. And that's what I bring. The most underserved populations in the voting sector here in this congressional district in this state are the Latino population and the young people. And that's what we need to get out to win in November.
At the forefront of many of our minds this past week has been the mass shooting in Florida. The sort of horrible event that is all too familiar to the people of CD2. If elected, how would you approach the issue of gun violence? Are you in favor of renewing the assault weapons ban? And how would you balance Second Amendment rights with issues of safety? And Bruce Wheeler, you have 90 seconds.
It's really an extremely difficult issue that hasn't been solved and it needs to be solved. Let me start out by saying that there are at least 6 principles that I believe are important to take right away. One is the background checks needs to be strengthened, the bump stock ban. We need to hold congressional hearings so the nation can have a public discussion with people coming before members of Congress in a committee televised nationally so that we can discuss this issue, all sides presenting their points of view, so the public can make up its mind and put pressure on Congress to finally do something. We need to ban large capacity clips. We need to train people. We need to address the issue of age. How young can you be to have an assault weapon, an AR-14? Should you even have one? To answer your question, yes, we need to renew the ban on the assault weapons. Let me show you an example of how nothing gets done. We'll talk hopefully about the Freedom Caucus and Mark Meadows, but how they yoke the concealed weapon and carry law to background checks. So they said it was joined together. You have to have both, and Paul Ryan said, yes, we'll have both. But the Senate is hearing them separately. So the Senate can hear them separately, and now Mark Meadows with his awesome 7.5 members of the House have said, if you don't yoke them, we won't hear it, and therefore we get nothing done. Let me finish by saying this. This is the kind of society that we live in. Steeped deeply in violence, our culture has to address that issue because that issue goes to the core of what's happening with guns and violence and mass murders. We censor To Kill a Mockingbird in many schools, even today. We censor Mexican-American ethnic studies in our own public schools in Tucson. And yet we have a president and an administration and an NRA that wants to arm our teachers as a solution. This is insane, and it needs to be stopped. And I will undertake those efforts to begin to remedy, address, slow this issue down, slow this era of violence down so that we can finally get to stop it completely.
When it comes to guns, I've changed my mind. After the shooting in Tucson, after the shooting of the children at Sandy Hook, I had to revisit my positions, and I did, and I changed my votes. I have a record in Congress of fighting to prevent gun violence. I fought to strengthen background checks and voted that way. I fought to close down the gun show loopholes. I fought to stop people on the terrorist watch list from being able to get guns. I fought to stop stalkers and domestic abusers from getting guns. And that's why Gabby endorsed me. That's why the NRA gave me a D rating. That's why the gun lobby spent $150,000 to defeat me. But we can beat them. We can ban assault weapons. We can make background checks more comprehensive. We can make it harder for dangerous people to get guns. We can make it harder for people to get weapons of war. I'm a grandmother. I attend Moms Demand Action, and Linda and her husband are sitting back here. And we're working on a program to teach young parents to ask, before they set up a play date, the parents of the other family what their position is on guns. Do they have them in the house? Are they loaded? And are they locked up? And if they feel uncomfortable, then they don't schedule the play date. Families can help us secure our children.
Like Bruce Wheeler, I do support a weapons ban on assault rifles. I think that that is one of the biggest issues that when every single mass shooting posts a picture of the gun that was used, and it is consistently the AR-15, we know we have a problem. We know we have an epidemic in this country. And we have the NRA that is pushing state-by-state legislation to erode our laws. I think it really starts not even just at the federal level, but at the state level. Since 2009, 11 states have passed background check laws in this country, and that's how we take over, exactly how the Republicans did. They took over state by state by state, and we can start that way. In the federal capacity, look what Jeff Sessions just did. He made it, he rolled back rules so that felons and people that would go out for a gun permit could stay and get a gun in their state if they just didn't go across states. Those are the type of rules that we need to make sure that aren't enforced, that are enforced, and that they are protected. That's where I really stand on gun control. And I do stand with Moms Demand Action every single day, because those are the groups that are really pushing this conversation. It's survivors. It's the ones that we should be listening to. When more gun deaths are done in a home than a mass shooting each year, we should affect that kind of change. When 300 kids a year die from a gun death from a handgun because it was misplaced in a home, that's the things that we should be talking about. When it's 500 kids a year die from a suicide in access to one of those handguns, rightfully owned by someone, that's what we should be addressing, because one of those kids' lives saved is what that legislation should do. So, thank you.
Oh my. 90 seconds just isn't enough to go into this, I think. But look, I agree with a lot of what we've all heard here from the other candidates. I think it is so inspiring that we have these 14 to 17-year-old kids who we've let down, right? We have not solved this problem. We've allowed the NRA and others to kind of run circles around us, unfortunately. But these kids in Parkland, right? They are on the news. They are eloquent. They are active, and they are fired up in a way that I'm going to aspire to myself for this entire campaign. And I was also inspired by them in part to not just throw words at you. Yes, I would like to reinstitute the assault weapons ban. Yes, I would like to have more robust background checks, and on and on and on. But hopefully, if Akil did his job, and I think he did, most of you have my actual platform, my suggestions on gun safety in your hands, in black and white, with my name attached to it, which most people will not do, because it's always risky. The NRA is going to come after all of us, right? But you have in your hands right now exactly what I want to see done on gun safety, and I hope that you'll take a look at that and let me know what you think. But this is truly one of the most important issues we can talk about, and from the perspective of a physician, this to me is a tremendous public health crisis, an epidemic, and something that we need to approach from that direction as well. And it'd be nice if we could restore the funding so that the CDC could actually study the problem.
I think all of us have been affected by gun violence in one way or the other. We know someone who was killed or assaulted. I was affected by it. My cousin was murdered. A mother, in front of her 3 children, was murdered. So it's something that it's just heartbreaking, and it lasts for generations and generations. And what's also equally heartbreaking is that our generation now, we call them, well, are they the millennials? No. These are the kids who have experienced mass shootings. This is a generation of mass shootings, and that is so disgraceful. So disgraceful. 93 Americans are killed with guns every single day. Our murder rate in the United States is 25 times higher than any other developed country. We have 365 million guns in this country. And like you said, it's going to develop, it has to shift in terms of a cultural shift, where we believe this is unnecessary. And we can do something about it. My daughter did something about it. She became the leader of Moms Demand Action in Annapolis. And every day she goes out there fighting for gun safety. And of course the regulations are, they don't want high capacity magazines, they want universal background checks. It's just a matter of being responsible. And so I think that, that we can do something about it. It's got to go through legislation. The government has got to do something about it. The Second Amendment does permit a responsible ownership. So that's what we have to work on. Thank you.
I agree with every candidate here. But being a businesswoman that I've been all my life, I'm going to read y'all something. This is how you defeat the NRA. Money. It's all about money. It's all about money. How much do you think Martha McSally, how much money do you think she got from the NRA? I looked it up. A lot, $75,000. The Speaker of the House, how much money do you think he got? And he's a hunter, you know, he got a lot. Almost $500,000 they are. No, I won't go there with the word. You know what they are. I'm going to read this to you. This is from television this morning. This is the latest. Fight with your pocketbooks, people. Burn up their customer service lines. That's how you change a brand. It's a brand. They don't want their brand destroyed. All right. These are the people you should shop with. MetLife, Enterprise, Alamo, Avis, Budget, Hertz, Chubb, LifeLock, Norton, Simply Safe, Allied Van Lines, North American Van Lines, Wyndham Hotels, TrueCar, and don't fly anything but Delta, and don't fly anything but United. You knock them down, you pull the money out of their organization. That's what you do. You kill the brand.